What's up guys, Card Protagonist here. Today, I will be doing a deck profile on my Ancient World Zerabarel Lost Max Dragon deck from the Climax Booster Violence Vanity. Many of my fans have requested for this updated deck profile, so thank you so much for all your lovely comments. Psycho to you, Max Dragons has gotten some of the best support in Violence Vanity. With new cards that eradicate their weaknesses, they are now truly one of the strongest deck in the game, alongside its boss, the Dimension Dragons. So Max Dragon have achieved excellent results in the recent tournament and championship, making them the top contenders for the title, the strongest. So what makes them strong? Let's find out. So for the buddy, we play Domilord Zerabarel. It's basically the very first form of Zerabarel Lost, and he's the very first card that you go into when playing this deck. So making sure you get that buddy gift is awesome because you never know when you need that one life point. Another budget option is the Size 4 because it's only a rare and you'll pretty much guarantee to go into him since you'll be able to search him out and evolve during your turn. So yeah, a great alternative is the Size 4 because you're pretty much guaranteed to go into him as well. We play two different copies of the boss monster depending on the situation. I play one copy of Almighty Overlord Zerabarel Lost and one copy of Amplord Zerabarel Lost. Alright, so what I like to call this is the attack and defensive stance. Basically with this, you are into your offensive stance. Looking at it, it looks really angry and offensive, and he has that 5 crit quadruple attack, which means you're dealing 20 damage easily. It's an awesome card. However, the defensive card is also very important, especially if you're fighting against such a matchup. Amplord actually does put in work against certain decks. For example, Shadow Shades, they have lots of set spells, and yes, even though you do not deal damage to them, you're still able to break all the set spells, which is pretty much your advantage engine, and you can slowly beat down from there. And since the final form is pretty much searched out most of the time, I played two different copies because I want to have the option to go into more destruction or more offense. And if there's nothing to destroy, I pretty much just go for him to swing for face. Otherwise, if I play against decks with lots of spells, I just go into him and blast off all their advantage. So yeah, two copies is great because even though they go in drop zone, you still can call it back with Overcrest because you'll be able to call the monsters from your hand or drop zone. So it's good to set them up in the drop zone so that you can evolve into one of these. So one of each final boss depending on your matchup. Now for the size 5, we play Z. Two copies of Z. Usually in this deck we play in pairs because if one were to go to the gauge, you can still get them back. And it's okay if they go to drop zone because you pretty much evolve them from the drop zone unless you're using the spell which evolves from the hand. So two copies is the best ratio. So Z itself is very powerful. It has triple attack, penetrate, and against all ability, which prevents all cards from being destroyed and bounced. For example, your set spell, which is very important. And this card to not be rested. So this card is a great counter against rest effects because it can't be rested and you'll be able to swing for 4 critical triple attack penetrate. So yeah, just two copies because of the evolving process, so 2. And now 2 copies of Tyrolot Orc. So Orc is our defensive tank. You usually go into him during your first turn and phase because you'll be able to evolve with your set spell. When this card enters the field, you may search up to one Max Dragon from deck, or if not, most of your Max Dragons will be able to search up for another Max Dragon monsters. If I'm not wrong, this guy can only search out for size 4s, so you won't be able to search out the spell now. So most of the time, what you search out with these cards are actually the spell nows because the spell now is very important. So for this turn and next turn, this card gains plus 15k defense. So basically, it's a 25k defense, which means your opponent is very unlikely to get rid of it. And of course, he also has the against more odds, but a downgraded one. If this is the only monster on the field, all cards on the field can be destroyed and bounced, which is awesome. So 2 copies just to evolve. And now finally, our buddy monster, 4 copies of Zerabarel Domilord. Your very base form. When this card enters the field, you can put up to one size 4 or greater monster or Overcrest from your deck into your hand. So if you don't have Overcrest, search out Overcrest. Otherwise, you can search out for an evolve form. And later in your evolve form, you can search out for a spell now during the end of turn. Spell is very important for the deck because of the fact that Chest Break is a thing in the meta. So 4 copies of Zerabarel because it is a must draw in your opening hand, otherwise you might actually lose the game. So 4 copies. And finally, one of the newest cards we got, and is personally one of my favorite cards in the deck, is 4 copies of Zerabarel's Primitive Power. Yes, it is basically a size 3, so which means unfortunately you won't be able to search out with the base form. However, you can search out with the other forms, size 5 or size 4, can search them out. His ability is very powerful and it really helps the deck against some really nasty cards like his Chest Break, which actually in the past gives you an auto lose if your opponent manages to cast it. So Primitive Power activates from your hand. When your opponent casts a spell and you have a monster with Zerabarel on the field, could be any of its size, you can drop this hand card and pay 1 gauge 1 life. You do nullify the spell opponent casts. This is very powerful, extremely powerful. We are very fortunate that Chest Break does not have a counter ability because once you change this to one of your effects or your spells, it's pretty much uncounterable. But fortunately, since it does not have counter speed, you'll be able to nullify the nasty Chest Break. And Chest Break is one of those cards that's really stopping this deck from getting to the top. And right now with this card, you are able to stack Chest Breaks, negates any of those nasty spells. There are so many good spells in Buddy Fight right now, and we are really thankful for this card. So 4 copies of Primitive Power. For these spells, we play 4 copies of Dragon Lord Burstforth. This is one awesome draw power. So cast cost, discard the Max Dragon monster from my hand, charge 1 gauge, gain 1 life, then draw 2 cards. Then if the card drop is a size 4 or greater, you can draw 1 additional card. So basically you will be able to turbo into 3 cards of your deck, charge 1 gauge and gain 1 life. It is a fantastic draw power, and since Overcrest costs those monsters from the drop zone, it is really good to set them up in the drop zone, and they are not really useful in the hand. So this card really speeds up the deck tons, and it's also one of the reasons why we can play Lost World in this deck. So 4 copies because it's such great draw power. 4 copies of Seamless Dragon Lord. This is another amazing spell in the deck. Cast cost 1 gauge, draw a card and choose one of the following 2 abilities. Either call up to 1 Max Dragon from your hand by paying its card cost, or stand a Max Dragon monster on the field. So how do you apply this card to your deck is, let's say you attack with your Z 3 times, you could cast this card counter and evolve 1 Max Dragon monster from your hand, so you can evolve to Final Form, deal another 20 damage. So yep, that's with the aggressive play. And the second ability is mostly used if you're already at Final Form and attack 4 times, and let's say your opponent's not dead, you can reset 1 time and swing for 5. So yeah, that's how you pretty much use this card. It is a very life card, and it allows you to draw an additional card, which is awesome because you get to draw 1 card and choose one of the following abilities, which means your opponent will be going down that turn. It is such an aggressive card, and I love it. And the best of all is it's not even once per turn, so you could actually evolve into Zeraros Lost and then swing. Then if they don't die, just cast 1 more time, draw 1 card and just swing 1 more time. So yeah, 4 copies because it just gives you the push for game. 4 copies of Lord of the Skies. It basically searches out for your base form, very important, because once you get your base form, you get the whole engine running, which makes this deck extremely consistent. Rarely you have a bad hand because this card just fixes all your problems. So pull up to 1 base form Zebras or Overcrest from your deck or drop zone. So amazingly, even if you run out of Zebras in the deck for some reason, they all fly into the drop zone, you can retrieve it from your drop zone into your hand. So yeah, this card is very important because it helps boost the consistency of the deck and make sure you get your winning image, which is your base form. Because the base form just fixes itself. Now 3 copies of Overcrest. Alright, the reason why I play 3 copies is because you can only set 1 Overcrest on the field. Playing multiple is not very useful. So yeah, Overcrest ability is very important because it is the only way you can go up to size 6. Abilities of all cards on the field cannot be nullified of card effects, so you'll playing against a lot of decks that nullify card effects is useless because this card nullifies. And most importantly, its final effect is at the end of each player's turn, so not only your turn, your opponent's turn, you can call up to size 4 greater Max Dragon from your hand or your drop zone by paying its call cost. So yeah, if you have these in drop zone and you're already at size 5, you can just evolve from top from the drop zone during your opponent's turn. And as dumb as it sounds, you must have this card in order to even play the deck. So 3 copies. Now time for the generic Ancient World draw powers. We have played 2 copies of Dragon Emperor Legend. Dragon Emperor Legend is nice because you can charge, draw, heal, and it's only used once per turn, so only play 2 copies. And usually this game don't last more than 3 turns, so 2 copies is fine. You don't draw multiples because it actually clocks in your hand and they become dead cards, so 2 is fine. And its best friend, 2 copies of Divine Dragon Creation. Pay 2 life, draw 2 cards. Awesome draw power. Life is not a problem in this deck because we have a giant monster tanking in the center and they will never ever get to your life points unless they Shadow Dive, which is a really odd choice. But yeah, just 2 copies because it's once per turn as well. And 2 copies of Soaring Dragon Fair Skylines, one of my favorite tech in the deck because basically a D-draw, a dimension draw. One fun fact about this deck is this deck doesn't use gauge at all other than some of your spells, which is this card and maybe the item, or unless you're going to Lost World. Otherwise, there's so much gauge to expand, you never have gauge problems. So having useless gauge is also a bad thing. So getting a turbo into more hand cards is just so awesome. And yeah, having extra D-draw, especially you go into Lost World turns, is awesome as well. So draw 3 cards and discard 2 cards from your hand. So also you'll be able to set up cards that can be revived anyway. So you can actually discard your monsters of size 4, size 5, size 6 because they can be revived from the drop zone by Overcrest Evolve ability anyway. So it's okay to drop them in the drop zone because otherwise sometimes these cards actually get stuck in the hand. Usually if I have this card, I'll just drop it because end of turn I'll just evolve by Overcrest. Maybe for the more offensive cards, I will keep in the hand because I want to evolve with the spell and just swing for more damage. So 2 copies of Fair Skylines because it's just such a good card. I like to play this set of draw power because it really speeds up the deck a lot. So yeah, that's my draw power. Now 3 copies of the new card Maxim of Absolute Strength. This is also another awesome card. You may only cast this card during an attack and you have a Max Dragon on your field, so it is basically a negate. Counter ability, nullify attack. Then look at the number of cards of the deck equals to your center size monster. So if you're size 6, you can check top 6. put one of them into your hand and the rest into your bottom of the deck. So it's awesome because it's basically one negate and draw a +1. Look top 6 +1 is just amazing because you could draw into potentially more defensive spells. In case the opponent is really able to overpower Zebras, you really want the extra negate. So this card is really excellent and really improves the consistency of the deck. And even if you do not need more defensive spells, you can also pick up draw power to prepare for next turn, or even that Lost World card. And that's why Lost World is so viable in this deck right now. So 3 copies of Maxim. Next, 3 copies of Lockbreak Flamegale. I play this card mainly against Swarm deck because resting the whole field and making that end their turn is hilarious. So yeah, 3 copies mostly against Swarm decks. If I were to play against single monster beaters, I would definitely side them out. So yeah, 3 copies. Next we play 3 copies of Lockbreak Heartwind Summon. So counter ability, choose a Max Dragon on the field, gain life equals to the monster size, and for this turn, next time the card will be destroyed, nullify destruction. So basically, you won't be able to take that penetrate damage, gain some life, and keep your boss monster on the field. Very, very important. So 3 copies. Another new card from the set is 2 copies of Indestructible Domilord. I really love the artwork of this card, and there's a new set spell that protects your Max Dragon and the set spell. Set, you can set multiple copies of it. All Max Dragon on the field cannot be put to other areas by opponent card effects, so it's really important because there are some cards like Stirrband, which is able to move your Max Dragon to one side and just swing for face, and that's very dangerous. And this actually fixes that problem, which is great. When your opponent card attack, change the target to your attack to your center Max Dragon. So this fixes a problem against those nasty Dra Ninja Shadow Dives. And finally, when a Max Dragon on the field other than this card will leave the field, you may put this card from your field into your drop zone. If you do, that card remains on the field. This card is really good because it stops Chest Break as well. And also, worst come to worst, it serves as a negate for your monsters. So you have this set on the field, your opponent managed to kill it because they overpower it. You can just sack this off and it stays on the field. So worst come to worst is a negate, but it counters so many nasty effects in Buddy Fight. So I played 2 copies because it's really handy to use. And for the item, we played 2 copies of Exceed Black Crown. It has an equip cost of 1 gauge, 6k, and 1 crit. This card can attack even if a Max Dragon in your center. When a Max Dragon monster enters a field, you can gain 1 life and draw a card. This ability activates once per turn. So this card's actually awesome in your opening hand because what I'll do with this card is before I call Domilord, I'll pay 1 gauge and equip this. Then I'll call Zebras. Then I can get to draw 1 card. Since the once per turn ability, during your opponent's turn, if you evolve to size 5, you get to draw additional card. And if you evolve to size 6, you can draw an additional card. So this card is basically a nice weapon that allows you to draw some cards while evolving. So you get to plus as you evolve your boss monster, which is sweet. So 2 copies, because even if I don't draw it, it's alright. If I draw it, it's awesome because it gives you so much draw power. And finally, 2 copies of Lost World. You are denied entry to the Lost Crew if you don't have the power of Lost World. So Lost World has its secret purpose in this deck, and the secret is, let me show you right away. So let's say your field is like this. One thing that you really fear right now is Chest Break. So firstly, Chest Break ability, put up to 2 spells from your opponent's field to the bottom of the deck. So as Chest Break activates, you send this to the bottom of the deck and you oversize and you die. And you lose the game practically. So what Lost World does is, since you go into Lost World, you switch your main deck into your Lost deck. So, which means they won't be able to even cast Chest Break. So even if you do not draw into your spell now, it's alright because Chest Break won't be able to activate. Chest Break ability sends to the bottom deck, but the fact that you have already switched your deck means this card can no longer has entry access to your deck, and this card will stay on the field permanently. And it pretty much shut down Chest Break. This is one of the solutions to Chest Break before even this card came out. So yeah, playing Lost World is really good in this deck because it prevents Chest Break, just in case you do not draw into your spell nows. And also, since you're playing Lost World, you will just play your generic Lost deck, and you do play the card which is Vanity Zero Blazer, which is awesome because this guy has the Lost Vader attribute. So all you need is just call another Lost Vader monster. You're all set for Zero Blazer. And surprisingly, Zerberus Lost is one of the strongest Lost World monsters because he actually overpowers Vanity itself with his 20 crit ability. But Vanity has the power to remove him easily, which gives Max Dragon a bit of problem when you're fighting against another Lost World. So yeah, Lost World is a really good tech because if you go into Lost World, most likely you pretty much win the game. You have so much good setup. Yes, even though you may lose the Against Block Odds ability, you have something like this, I don't think your opponent will stand a ghost of a chance. So Lost World is awesome, and play 2 copies because not only gives you more push for game, it also protects your set spell from Chest Break, which gives you so much stability of the deck. So I hope you guys enjoyed my deck profile on the Zerberus Lost Max Dragon deck. Leave a comment down below on which Climax Booster deck you would like to see next. And also, if you're looking for completed Vanguard and Buddy Fight decks, do check out my online shop www.cardprotagonist.com, links in the description box down below. We mail worldwide right to your doorstep. So till next time, keep on Buddy Fighting!